In this episode of Zombie Lies, we're going to answer the question, who is to blame for the supply drop weapon fiasco in Call of Duty? Activision, the publisher, Treyarch or Sledgehammer Games, the developers, or the players that actually purchased the supply drops? Think about your answer now, as it might be different by the end of this commentary. There's been a Reddit post making the rounds recently that is about a month old, which is supposedly from someone in the know at Treyarch. I'm taking this with a grain of salt because it's impossible to verify, but there are things within this post which were predicted even before any of it was leaked or revealed to us, like an MP40 variant coming back into the game. In this post, it details the timeline of events for supply drops, and it goes something like this. Number one priority for Advanced Warfare was player retention, because people left ghosts like Syrians after DLC number 2, which makes sense because I never played the game past February personally. Sledgehammer Games came up with the supply drop idea to keep them playing because of this psychological concept called the feedback loop. Complete challenge, get reward. Complete challenge, get reward. Then when discussing the DLC, Activision brought up CSGO cases, more on that later, and tells Sledgehammer Games to take supply drops to the next level and make them purchasable. This is when we got advanced supply drops, which actually made more money than during the span of Ghost, despite Advanced Warfare's lower game sales. What does that mean? People were buying these advanced supply drops in droves. Now on to Black Ops 3, which didn't have supply drops in them until July of last year, after the game was basically finished. They were ordered from Activision above to put this concept in place, and it was done, including bootstrapping some existing mechanics like in Zombies in order to be able to be monetized. Treyarch negotiates cosmetic-only items in these supply drops, and Activision agrees upon the condition that if the revenue isn't where they expect it to be, that condition will change. Lo and behold, the supply drops sell at least 5 times less than the ones that Advanced Warfare sold, so Activision comes back with the demand that gameplay items must be included in supply drops. This means that the weapons which were planned for DLC, the MX Garand, the Marshall 12 pistol, and the MP40, were now to be included in supply drops instead of given away with the DLC and the season pass. The post also spells out the future, including correctly predicting the MP40 to be released, because remember, this post is a month old, and we didn't even hear about the MP40 until about a week ago, along with saying that there's 2 new specialists in the works and new weapon skins to mimic guns, like a Kuda MP5 skin and a KN44 AK-47 skin. With that in mind, let's break all of this down. Given that this post is from a Treyarch sympathizer, some of the facts in here might be skewed towards letting Treyarch off the hook. But, given that Activision, which is the publishing company, sets the price point for the game, the DLC, and all of the microtransactions, along with giving the development company the resources to complete the project, which means they either have to pay salaries or hire coders or other development studios to help finish the job, it's not surprising that Activision is calling the shots in terms of how to maximize revenue from the game. Also, the development companies can try to push back on the decisions made by the publisher, as we saw with the negotiation for cosmetic-only items and supply drops, but ultimately, the publisher is the final say because they're the ones that are bankrolling the entire operation. You can't tell your boss to fuck off and still have a job, right? It's too bad that Activision is so fucking short-sighted that they don't realize that these decisions will drive the player population away from the game. I can almost guarantee you that Advanced Warfare would have had a better reception from players without gun variants and supply drops, and even though we can't see player counts, you could bet your ass that people will be leaving this game in droves now with this new development. Some have said that the double crypto key weekend shows that Treyarch are in on it, but this line of thinking makes absolutely no sense, because double crypto keys means you'll earn those supply drops rightfully by playing the game and not having to purchase them. Not to mention, Vonderhaar took a week off when the new guns and supply drops were first announced. This section of the post really hits you right in the feels. Quote, I can only imagine the stress on the guy. Fuck, he fought against it the hardest, and now he gets all the hate thrown directly at him on Twitter, and he's not allowed to say he agrees, end quote. Anyone watching this video, send Vaughn a tweet, letting him know that you understand that he's not to blame for the weapons and supply drops fiasco. Maybe it'll make him feel better about his day, especially because he's the community manager for this bullshit, and it's not even his idea that he's getting hate over. I'm pretty sure Vonderhaar is going to end up leaving Treyarch because of this, which is a terrible loss for Call of Duty. Even if you don't like Treyarch games, Vonderhaar is an extremely talented game designer that has great overall vision for the game. Now that the dick riding is over, I'm sure you'll agree, this isn't Treyarch's fault. So is it the players' fault? I mean, they are, after all, paying for the supply drops, and Activision wouldn't implement these things into games if they didn't work, right? Vote with your wallet. Hit them where it hurts the most, the bottom line, right? Well, this is a gray area for me, especially after you've read up on psychology and how the effects of these items are on the human mind. I already mentioned the feedback loop earlier, but Activision incorporates multiple elements from mobile games, which are almost always free to play, with coercing players into throwing money at the screen using various tactics. One of which is called ego depletion, which basically refers to the idea that self-control or willpower is drawn upon from a limited pool of mental resources that can be used up. When the energy for mental activity is low, self-control is typically impaired, which leads the user to spend money to get what they've been working towards for a long time. This ego depletion is accelerated greatly by the fact that studies have shown that when confronted with another person who paid for advantages, players reported even more temptation to spend real money themselves in order to even the odds. This is how you get the Sledgehammer Games pre-lobby showcase, with everybody showing off all the cool shit that they got. This is how when you scroll over to the player list, you can see people's loadouts. And this also explains the concept behind the winner's circle, where everybody gets to show off all their cool moves and beepity bops in order to flaunt it in front of other people. There's also the first one free concept. Remember when we were all given 200 Call of Duty points in order to, quote, purchase a free rare supply drop? Yeah, this is the same shit that drug dealers pull in order to get their clients hooked. Activision is basically saying, see how easy it is to get a supply drop by using Call of Duty points instead of grinding 10 to 15 games in order to get enough crypto keys to get one? Oh, and speaking of COD points, this is yet another concept that mobile and free-to-play games employ by obfuscating the fact that you're spending actual money. Money turns into COD points, it turns into crypto keys, or liquid divinium. That's 3 levels of indirection going on here, which prevents gamers from seeing the true cost of playing, as they don't place as much value on the made-up currency as they do with actual cold, hard cash. What about YouTubers that open up supply drops that they pay for, which encourages others to do the same? Think about this. Even if you are a YouTuber which spends $50 on supply drops, some of the bigger YouTubers makes hundreds of dollars on those videos, so they make their money back anyways. Wouldn't you invest $50 to make hundreds? It's a no fucking brainer. And I even know from some people that have told me in private that Activision gives them money to use on supply drops to fuel the psychology of mutual entertainment. If someone in your vicinity, or in this case, someone that you're watching online, is enjoying themselves, you're much more likely to want to share that experience and throw down money on the items. Keeping these things in mind, it's kind of hard to blame players for this, even if they're the ones that are keeping the gravy train going by throwing down money, as these concepts in the game are specifically designed to fuck with the human mind. So that leaves Activision, and since you already know that they spell their name with a $, they are ultimately the ones to blame for this shenanigans. They wanted to take this concept, which works brilliantly and fairly, might I add, the CSGO cases, and turn them into a shitstorm of pay to win in a $60 game, and won't even include them into the season pass, which makes it now a $110 experience. Activision wants to reap the rewards of the system without putting in the effort to understand why the cases are so popular. CSGO cases, much like the original supply drop model, are cosmetic-only items with skins for guns or different kinds of knives. The reason why players spend money on these cases are because they have an actual value due to a secondary market on which you could trade skins or even sell them. They're worth actual money. This makes all of the difference. Spend $2 on a case, there's a chance you'll get a knife which is worth hundreds of dollars. You could also use these skins to bet on CSGO Pro matches, which keeps casual fans interested in the competitive portion of the game versus none of the microtransactions going towards the prize money or keeping the community invested in the comp portion, as Vondahar indicates here in this tweet. Halo 5 used the revenue obtained from rec packs, which is a similar microtransaction, and puts them towards the prize pool for their world championships. For an esports game that had only a paltry 40,000 viewers on Twitch watching the Halo World Championship Finals, they somehow managed to have a $2.5 million prize pool through taking rec pack revenue and putting it right back into the game instead of into their pockets. Circling back to the Reddit post, the people at Treyarch never directly see this money stream. It's all going back into Activision's bank account. Activision wants to reap all of the benefits of the CSGO cases without putting in the effort to actually create a marketplace whereby players can resell their items from supply drops or even purchase them outright, or a system like Halo to put microtransaction money back into esports prize pools. Remember, this is a company that is actually harassing someone who's been attempting to figure out the odds of the RNG in the supply drops, I'm assuming to cover their ass to the fact that the players are truly getting fucked over and don't want this information exposed. And the worst part of this all, Activision by law has to maximize their profits in order to appease their shareholders. So if you want to look at the real root cause of the supply drop disaster, it's capitalism. That's right. Without a system that rewards uncontrollable greed, we wouldn't be stuck in this predicament. Bring on communism. Remove the supply drops. No, I'm just fucking with you. Anyways, guys, did you change your opinion of who is to blame here? Let me know your thoughts down below. I've been the Schwantz27, out like the Blue Jackets in a playoff spot. Until next time.